Hello and welcome to Take You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I'm your host, JP John Poz from the Two-Man Power Trip. And of course, joining me is the star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion, 8-time Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Champion, and one of the greatest trainers ever in the history of the business, the Doctor of Desire, Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how are you doing today, sir?
John, I am doing great today. Thank you very much. Always, it's kind of a fall day here in East Tennessee, but always good to wake up in the Smoky Mountains.
Do you condone the Tennessee fans throwing stuff?
Let me start out by saying, first of all, when I say those words about Knoxville, I mean them too.
Yes.
And so I like this area in this part of the country, but no, I do not condone what the volunteer fans did. Just as we're speaking right now, last night. But sometimes your emotions get the better of you, and I can understand the passion and the fury and the anger that some of these people feel. Also, they're just idiots.
True. Did you ever have that experience in the Smoky Mountain as far as being with Cornette? Because I feel like that would be it.
Yeah, actually, we did. We had one or two. So yeah, but that was a I guess menu for the day. Throw trash in the ring after the matches if you were that passionate about it, man. That was, yes, of course. And I remember growing up as a kid watching the matches in Texas, and people would throw stuff in the ring, and there'd be fights in the crowd, and there's all kinds of things that don't exist today. But last night, Tennessee Volunteers let them know right here in Knoxville, Tennessee, they're going to protest what they feel was wrong, and that's what they did. But anyway.
You think it had anything to do with Lane Kiffin being their coach like 10 years ago?
And he just left in the dead of night?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it could have something to do with it. I think there were some heated emotions either way on both sides of the fence. That's what I would think.
Man, those fans, they have a good memory, though. They're kind of like, hey, remember this guy ditched us 10 years ago? Like, screw him.
Yeah, I mean, come on, get over it, guys, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just say it's okay. Welcome in. Bring him back into the fold. We're okay.
He does it a lot, Lane Kiffin. He's done it a few times.
You know what? We're those without sin cast the first stone is what I would say. Yes. We're all fallible. Nobody's infallible, and I'm sorry, but what the hell are you expecting from a football coach? Sorry.
True.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, because I'm sure you guys crossed paths, but this week on Dark Side of the Ring, we saw Luna Vachon and a great episode there, very in depth. Got a lot of good interviews from Mick Foley and Medusa, her friend Kim Sachs. I mean, there's a bunch of good interviews on there. I just thought it was really kind of well done, a good episode for sure. Paul the Butcher Vachon was on there, so I was a little surprised with like being able to get him, and obviously his advanced age and everything he's going through health wise. But what did you think? Did you see the episode, and did you cross paths with Luna before?
I did not see the episode, but yeah, I crossed paths with Luna when we went to WWE or WWF the first time, and I had already heard about Luna. I mean, through the years anyway, and stories and about, you know, being second, third generation wrestler is never easy for anybody. But can you imagine being Mad Dog Vachon's daughter, you know, and going on the road and things like that? So, you know, I understood that. She was walking in some big shoes. So always a very, very nice lady. But I think at the same time, there were triggers that set her off. And she, of all the girls in the company at that time, I think especially, you'd be hard pressed to say who else was tougher, because Luna just didn't care. And boy, if you made her mad, God help you. So she was a very nice lady to me. I traveled in Canada with her and Bull Nakano. Gosh, for a couple of days, yeah, and it was a good ride. It was a fun ride. So, yeah.
Now, they said some bipolar, some schizophrenia. You know what I mean? She would be super sweet, but she'd also have other. Even her son was saying, you know, she had different personalities.
But yeah, you think about this. Who doesn't? And especially these days, who doesn't go through a time of stress and under extreme pressure and not knowing how to either cope with or not having anyone to cope with? I don't know. All those are certainly a possibility with anybody, but especially in this business, it's prevalent because of all the psychosis that goes on, I guess. You have to stop and think. especially back in those days when WWF was still pretty much the place to be. There's all these unseen and unspoken elements that it's hard enough to deal with in a regular whatever regular life would be or regular job would be, but I mean in show business. So paranoia, schizophrenia, bipolar, Christ, show me somebody who wasn't or isn't at that time, or look around.
And they were saying a lot of drug issues as well, and a lot of stuff has happened. Maybe some abuse when she was younger, and her being in the business, and her having to deal with Moolah and that crew, and all these different things that happen throughout her life. It's pretty tough getting into the wrestling business and getting trapped basically by it. And that was her passion and that was her addiction, but she was also had a drug and apparently other issues as well.
And once again, I think any issues that were faced in the business, I think probably would have been faced outside the business too. But it's not for everybody. This is not if you're looking for a healthy environment. I don't know where to tell you to go. I mean, is it at the post office? Gosh, the Circle K down the street? I don't know. Is it a factory? I don't know. Can you sell cars well? I don't know. Do you love pro wrestling? Of course. Well, that's the box you fit in, I guess. And it's not for everybody. And all those issues, from drugs to other addictions to whatever happens, to the bad things, the good things, and all things in between, we don't know until that happens. And I think Luna was like everybody else who was in the business at that time or before her, pretty much 90% of the people who were passionate and actually loved the business. It was in her blood. It was in her family. She got this view of the world and never tuned out. So it is showbiz, and it's a tough gig sometimes. It's a tough gig all the time. It really is. I think for all the guys, it's just how you handle it. And I'm not saying tough like you begrudgingly accept the challenges, but I mean, people talk about how successful John Cena or people like The Rock were. Well, they were driven, and they continue to be driven. And it's all about how you handle the circumstances you're presented with, I guess. And Luna did the best she could with what she had, and I think all the guys and gals at that time, especially, found a way to forget about business if you had to, or cope, whatever it took. And you're seeing a lot of that on the dark side of the ring. Therefore, that's why it's called the dark side of the ring, I guess, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Man, now I'm depressed. But no, not really.
With her, like, obviously being a wrestler for a long time, she wanted to win the WWF World Title. Medusa tells a story where she was going to job to her, but Luna wouldn't do it because management didn't want that to happen. So there was a match apparently where she almost pinned her, and Luna like quickly got off the cover because Medusa was literally wasn't going to kick out. So there's an interesting story. Like, she always wanted to be WWF champion, and then she had to work with Sable and keep putting Sable over. So I mean, a lot of interesting stuff with like not a great relationship with WWE, or maybe they didn't see her for more than what she was, and maybe she should have been champion or pushed.
Well, and once again, I didn't travel with a whole lot of people, and I wasn't real close with a whole lot of people, but I could see the evident happenings backstage with when you had the Sunnies and the Sables and things like that going on. Well, because Luna understood respect about the business, and she understood the business, and she knew there was just a certain code, I guess, if you want to say it like that. And there really was. There was a certain code. There were certain things that you knew about the road, certain things that you knew about the business. And it was, did it change? Yes. But at that time, when you had a woman come in you had a guy come in, anybody come in and just all of a sudden start calling shots and telling somebody who'd been there for a while what to do, or, hey, we'll take this and move this. That's just not the way it works. Right, wrong, or indifferent. some of those rituals need to stay intact, because that's without any barriers or boundaries. It's going to be chaos, and it was chaos as it was. You needed at least some boundaries. You needed some respect to be had, and I think that was a huge part of it. I mean, once again, you respect somebody, you respect their boundaries and their land, wherever they're standing, whatever it may be, and you'll be okay. But if you want to step over the line, just be prepared for what's over the line. And not everybody seems to understand that. So I could certainly see those days, and it was a lot crazier back then, and so there were a lot crazier people, I think, back then.
Yep. So sad ending, obviously, for Luna. Sad kind of just existence there towards the end of her life, for sure. She was not into the wrestling business at all towards the end, and just it seemed like very sad, for sure.
Well, no doubt.
It ends. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And everybody wants to, you come in and say, when you first get in wrestling, you say, man, I want to be the world champion. I want to be the best. And then you figure out it's not really about what you do in the ring. It is, but at the same time, if you're not anybody that they want to do business with, it doesn't matter. So you have to understand this is this is a huge part of the process. And that's why very few, it's lonely at the top, I hear. So, but you have to do what you have to do to get where you want to be, I guess. I saw a tweet with, from Kevin Nash, with Rock back and forth saying, hey, I saw I was a dick to you back in whenever, just protecting my spot. That's all it was. And that's really all it was. So that some people can understand that and move on, or some people can't. But it's that kind of deal. It really, really is. As insane and petty and crazy as it sounds, that was the way it was then, and it's going to continue to be what it is until it's not.
So I just wanted to bring up what we were talking about last week with Randy Orton, and how you're the first guy to get in the ring with him in WWE. You kind of give him the thumbs up, you give him the seal of approval. I went back and I looked this past year, actually, probably about 4 or 5, maybe 6 months ago. He did an interview where he basically was talking about that and how you kind of were the first one he ever got in a ring with for WWF, WWE, and you did give him the thumbs up and the seal of approval, and kind of let him go on to the next level. And obviously he kind of takes it from there, obviously, but
right.
That's pretty cool though. Giving you a little bit of a shot, a little bit of a pat on the back there.
That's very cool. That's really cool, man. Randy, mention anything, but that's exactly what it was. And we talked about that. So that's what I was there for. If it wouldn't have been me, it would have been somebody else. Cause I think Randy would have impressed anybody he got in the ring with, but that's very cool. Very nice.
Even Michael Hayes would have been impressed, you're saying?
Yeah, I think Michael definitely would have been impressed. In fact, I'm going to go on record saying, Michael B.S. Haynes would be impressed. Fabulous Firebird from Chattanooga. Boy, he's from Atlanta, Georgia. It's that other fellow from Chattanooga. The bigger free bird. Anyway, yes, Michael Hayes would have been very impressed. Michael Hayes has been impressed with Randy for years, just so you know.
Yes. Yeah. I just thought that was cool that Randy said that, because I don't know if a lot of people realize that, though. Like you go through a history, you're like, oh, he started in OVW, but there's a part where it's like he has to start somewhere. Yeah. It's not just you get thrown in OVW automatically. Like there must be a starting point. That's pretty cool that it did for a lot of guys start with you.
Well, yeah, for that time period, especially the guys who come to Stanford, stay a couple days, and again, literally maybe just be Monday and Tuesday. They go back Tuesday afternoon, so we need to get in the ring Monday or Tuesday morning, and get a chance to roll around and see how the ring feels, and so that was that was pretty much standard procedure back then. So yeah, if anybody went to OVW in the beginning, they would usually get flown to Stanford, unless they were a special case coming from HWA or somebody else to get training. But usually they come to Stanford and then get sent down to OVW or Cincinnati. So, yeah, there were a few guys that came through.
Hey, your boy Les Thatcher. Hey.
Yes, sir.
Yes, your
Les
boy.
was running HWA at that time, and that was I thought that was a really good time for developmental. Some people will disagree, but that's okay. Everybody has their opinion, right?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
It is interesting, though, that there's another guy goes to OVW, becomes a gigantic, huge star, and some may say one of the biggest movie stars going today. He kind of went through you, right? And you had to give him the thumbs up. What about Dave Batista? Wasn't he another guy that you kind of had to basically not test the waters, but just kind of see what he's got?
No, yeah. When you looked at Dave, he looked the part. No doubt, he looked like a badass. He had the Mongolian haircut with
Yep.
the gimmick in the middle, and I don't think anybody mind. But he came in with his wife, and my God, impressive looking guy. When he got in the ring, he locked up like a pro, and he moved like a pro. I'm smaller than him, and he listened. He followed. It was like, okay, well then all that's missing is getting some experience under his feet. I think he was older, 30. Does he say how old he was when he came?
Mid-30s almost.
Mid-30s, yeah.
Yeah, which is way older for them, right?
Yeah,
they would never do that.
He had trained a little bit with Alpha in Pennsylvania, and I believe that's Alpha probably, I think, called the office and said, you need to take a look at this guy. And when we took him in for the questions that we would ask, his wife came too, which is fine. But we would ask a question like vanilla or chocolate, and she would answer. We're talking to Dave. so I think, I don't remember if any, I think, yeah, somebody said, oh, we need Dave to kind of give us this. So, he was a little shy in the beginning, or maybe, I don't know, intimidated. I don't know what it was, but it was obvious this guy had potential. Looked great. And so sent him down to OVW, made him Leviathan. That was a Jim Cornette creation. And I thought he was great in that role. He looked the part. It was still, you could take a guy like that and still make him look like a monster and still make him look extraordinary. Even in Kentucky, they would know and look at him. So, hi, he ain't from right here, is your mom? So
Right.
He looked great for that. And I thought he learned. I don't know what I've heard him not really talk fondly of his time in OVW, and that's okay too. But it was part of the process. It was part of the building block that got him to where he is today. So overall, I believe he's a grateful guy. I really do, because he's never shown me anything different. And who knows, when he's saying something for everyone to hear, I don't think he's being too cautious, and I think he wants it to be known, and so more people hear, and that's cool. So, but Dave, from day one, I think certainly everybody looked at him and thought star, and when I worked with him, I thought pro, and it just went from there. So
I have a feeling there's not too many like Batistas. You know what I mean? Like they don't grow on trees. That look,
right.
That physique. It's just like, wow, who is this guy? Like, when he walks in the room, like, wow, 6'5", 275 probably, just like jacked, but has a certain look to him, a certain appeal. Even like the tattoos a little bit different. He's got a definite different look to him.
Yeah, and he had a different feel to him too. It really, I don't know if it's that grow on trees type physique. At the same time, you have to have the head to figure it out, and you have to have the instinct and that at least fundamental knowledge of how to figure this out, because you can't just go out there and be a big muscle guy. We tried it with Occam, with Brockus. We tried it. We tried it with a few guys. It just couldn't grasp what this really is and what it's about. And it took him a little bit, because I don't think he was, well, I think everybody knows the story. So, and that's what it takes. It takes building a relationship and following through on what you're going to say you're going to do, and be grateful every day, and come in and let everybody know how grateful this opportunity is, and have a great attitude. I mean, sometimes it's easy to get a bad attitude, but I really think in all business, sports, anything you do, it's about the attitude. And I think Batista, when he first started, wasn't sure about anybody, and he wasn't going to let anybody know about him and open up. But once he got around top guys like Triple H and Shawn and whoever else, Flair, they smartened him up to how it works and how to be. So that was what was going to happen regardless. Somebody was going to take him aside. He saw this guy and said, man, we're going to give you every opportunity to succeed. We're going to help you. And it's up to you to take it or not. And Dave did. And look where he's at now. So good for him.
With him, I always call it like the Lex Luger appeal. Like when Lex walks in the room, people are like, oh my God, who the hell is that guy? Like that's like a Batista. Like he walks in the room like, who the hell is that? Like I'm going to pay attention to that guy. You know, Lesnar obviously has that. Cena has that. Ultimate Warrior, Kerry Von Erich, like just that certain look to like, man, that guy is somebody. He must be a wrestler. Like, or Hogan has that like times 10. But it's just like, oh my God, that guy just looks like a monster.
Well, and really, that's what you want. You want to look like a movie star. You want to look like a superstar. Loves that. Well, yeah, and the boys love it too. I mean, when Savage and Hogan and everybody was at their hottest, Hogan and Savage before the private jets and planes and everything would get off wearing full gimmick. And then they couldn't understand why people were coming up to them. Of course they could. That's why they were doing it. You couldn't help it. You couldn't help it. It was just that magnetism. And now, where are your Batistas and, Lesnar's in WWE, but where are your other guys? Where's your big guys? Where are you guys that are going to attract the attention walking through the airport? I didn't get that for a long time either. I thought it was all about the working. It is, but it's about the working backstage in business and knowing what you're capable of doing and presenting it, then going out there and executing it and doing the things are right and instinctually know what's right. And that takes a while to get that experience, and it takes a while to get that seriousness from the powers that be to get behind you. So, I mean, yeah, that not to go off on a rant, but I just wonder where those guys are today. I don't believe that they're not out there. And I think there's some guys who have the spirit of getting over and understanding what they have to do to get over. But I don't know. It's very rare out there today.
With Batista, former OVW world champion, goes into WWE. I don't know if maybe they didn't know what they had at first when he got there, because remember he was Deacon Batista when he enters WWE, and he's on SmackDown, a part of the draft, and he's with Devon Dudley, who's doing Reverend Devon. Almost like at that point, it's like, okay, we don't want him to be Leviathan for whatever reason on the main roster. Let's make him Deacon Batista. It's almost like, wow, they kind of just saw this big, huge, massive clay, and we're like, let's just give him a generic, weird gimmick, right? It's almost like they didn't know what they had.
First of all, did you say OVW world champion?
Yes, he was. Oh, sorry, OVW champion. I'm sorry. Yeah, not world. Yeah,
I let that go by last time, but I won't.
You're right.
Yeah, okay.
Heavyweight champion.
Yeah, the OVW champion.
Yeah.
So your question was,
did they see anything in him at first? Because making him Deacon seems like.
Well, but sometimes, and I'm not saying this is the case. This is just my perception, my opinion. Sometimes you give them something to see if you'll do it.
Really?
And sometimes just to see, hey, does this big goof really want to be here? Is this big goof really a big goof? Or is he going to pick up anything from Devon? What's going to happen? How do you do this? What's the right to censor? I don't know. Skip and zip anybody? For Christ's sake.
Right.
Sometimes it's just out there because we've got nothing for this guy to do, but let's see what he can do just standing next to Devon. what can he do? Does he have anything in his head? Does he have any ideas? Does anything happen when he goes out? Well, yeah, they react to it, but then what? So I think Dave might have been just floating alone in this big ocean full of sharks circling the water and coming up now and then and just taking a look and see what they got. Not everybody's out to help you. And sometimes you're put in that position to see what you do. Are you going to swim towards land, or are you going to keep going farther and farther out to sea, never to be heard from again? So I think in the gym, when Dave asked Hunter, you need a spot or whatever it was, I don't know. That from then on, he started getting the secrets to unlock the box with, man. So that alone is a skill, and because knowing how shy Dave Batista was when he first came there, knowing how he didn't talk a lot, and I get that. I think that was what it was when he first came on board. He didn't want to say the wrong things. He didn't want to piss people off, but you have to. That's what it requires. So
then eventually, I mean, the Deacon thing doesn't bury him or kill him, right? It's just weird. It's like, okay, what is this weird gimmick? But eventually he'll get moved over to Raw and he'll be on Evolution. But that just means that they tape the thing with Jindrak, Orton, Flair, and Triple H. They get rid of that. They get rid of Jindrak. Then it's just Orton, Flair, Triple H. Then they add Batista to the group. Do you think that was, in hindsight, like an easy fix, easy move? Obviously, that was better.
I'm sure it was a calculated move. I'm sure. I'm sure it was figured in as soon as they figured they didn't want Jindrak anymore. I mean, Mark Jindrak's an incredible looking athlete. He's an incredible athlete for real, but you have to have some personality. You have to have something, and I don't know that Mark did. I don't know that Batista did at the time, but he sure looked like he did, and I think he could be taught. I think he was probably more receptive than Jindrak would have been, because Jindrak, I think, was a little reserved too. And when you're out with Flair, Randy, Hunter, and those three aren't wallflowers. They're having a good time, and everybody knows it. So I think Dave was looking for somewhere to go and finally get a break, and he did.
So they put him in Evolution with those guys. It just seemed like kind of a perfect pair. Flair, the old guard. Triple H is kind of quote unquote in his prime at this point, even though not really, because the thigh injury, to me anyway, slowed him down considerably. But you could still say he's in his prime at this point. Orton is an up and comer. Batista's an up and comer, but more of like the bruiser enforcer type. Kind of fits the role. It's like, okay, he's going to be like the guy that's just going to Arn Anderson type. He's going to kick everybody's ass in the group. Maybe not win all the matches, but he's going to be like the ass kicker. Not the promo guy that Arn was, obviously, but he's going to be like the big thug. So I feel like he fit the group perfectly. He was very smart. Triple H might have had his eye on him for a while. Who knows?
Yeah, no doubt. I think anybody who came in looked like Batista, he's certainly going to have his eye on him. And as everybody, the entire office is looking at him. Sure. That's why you want to use the guy, man. Don't just keep him down the card and doing stupid stuff like Deacon Batista, but make him, help elevate him, I think.
So when 2005 hits, it's basically WWE, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're thinking is we have two future stars here, Cena, Batista. Cena for SmackDown, Batista for Raw. They're both the final two members in the Royal Rumble. Vince hilariously comes down to the ring after they kind of screwed up the finish and tears both of his quads. He can't get up. He's literally sitting down, telling them whatever. Batista ends up winning the match. At that point, obviously, you win the Royal Rumble, right? You're kind of christened, whether you realize or not, like the next guy, or hopefully the next guy.
Yeah. And Batista knew it. Hunter knew it. Hunter was already in his ear, no doubt. And the office was behind him, no doubt. You still had Pat Patterson and a few other people helping him along and giving him advice along the way. So, yeah, and he did exactly what he needed to do to stay on top and be with the right guys. Because to be on top, you got to work with another top guy. And they had that figured out, and he was going to be definitely figured in.
With that cool angle, that means that Orton, his big push there kind of subsides and he goes away, and that means Batista kind of takes that spot. Is that something that Triple H is like grooming him all the way through? Because it seems like that would be the role of the veteran. You're kind of grooming the guy, you're working with him. Then they do the thumbs up, thumbs down thing. You know what I mean? What
Yeah.
they did to Orton, but then Batista basically does it to Triple H and says, "Nope, I'm getting shot at your title. I want your shot." And they start that Triple H Batista feud, which was kind of brewing for a while. It was kind of a good lead up actually to it.
Yeah.
But that would mean WrestleMania 21, Batista Triple H for the title. Evolution is going to break up. Does that mean like he's grooming him the whole time, or is that like not the way it goes backstage? The veteran doesn't necessarily always groom the next guy.
Oh, no. The veteran, good veteran, would definitely want to groom the next guy and help him along because it would be advantageous to him as well. And my God, yeah, I think not knowing, no one's ever told me, yeah, that's what Hunter was trying to do. But yes, certainly I would believe that's what Hunter was trying to do. Hunter's an old school guy. No matter, he's an old school guy. And, I, for the most part, if he sees somebody, and I believe if he respects the guy and appreciates what he does for the business, in other words, stays in shape, is on time, can have great matches, go out there and listen, well, then by all means, I think you're going to be held in high esteem. So Batista did all that, and they were workout partners, so why not? It made perfect sense, and to help him along the way and listen and learn. And that's really the way you do it. I wish that model existed for everybody today, but unfortunately it doesn't, to where you get in the ring with guys better than you and listen to them and be groomed along the way. But it's very, very hard to find.
Do you think that Batista was maybe doing a little politicking, trying to be Triple H's workout partner? Would that ever be possible?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm dead serious.
Oh, my God. That never crossed my mind. Can I ponder that? Yeah. Can I ponder that for a minute? I mean, can I have some time to really think on that one? Yeah, I'm just, because I don't know if I'm prepared to answer that right now.
But I think it's advantageous, like you said, kind of for both guys. Batista, because he needs Triple H maybe to help him, or
Right.
even as the veteran presence, help him just grow. But Triple H probably sees money in him, like, I want to help this guy get to the next level because he can help WWE, but most importantly, he can help me.
Well, I think it's always me first.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of like going into was it Caesar or whatever the king is, and say, my Lord, may I be your faithful servant? Why, yes. And if you screw me over, I'll chop your head off. I think I asked you this last week, or maybe I didn't. Have you ever seen Wrestling Isn't Wrestling by Max Landis?
No. Mm-mm.
Please check it out. It's well worth 30 minutes of your time, and it'll explain it perfectly. When you politics, you say, "Oh my goodness, I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around that." But Wrestling Isn't Wrestling by Max Landis will explain everything in a nutshell. 30 minutes of your time is all it's asking for.
I love it. Definitely gonna have to check that out for
Please
sure.
do. Yeah.
With Batista and Triple H, obviously Batista goes over, but it's very interesting because not only does he go over there, he goes over the next pay-per-view and then the pay-per-view after that. So he basically kind of wipes Triple H out. So you think after Triple H spent, I'd say, a good 3 years burying everybody, buried Orton, he buried RVD, he buried Booker T, he buried Kane. I mean, Scott Steiner, Goldberg. I mean, it goes on and on of all these guys he buried. It was just, it made no sense. It was terrible. The only guy that kind of got over him was Shawn Michaels, but he may be the greatest politicker. Well, maybe not. Second greatest behind Hogan, maybe politicker of all time, or maybe even close to Triple H. But you know what I'm saying. It just felt like, wow, Batista is actually not only getting over on him, like Triple H ain't beating this guy. Like Batista's getting win after win after win. It just felt like, okay, this is the daunting of a new era, and they're really giving him and even Cena on the other brand, and they'll end up switching, and Cena will go Raw and he'll go SmackDown. But they were both anointed the two guys.
Well, sure, and you have to do that. I mean, I've heard the story many times where Dusty Rhodes in Atlanta was stand up in front of the crew and say, "Listen, this is my quarterback right here. The Black and Roll Express, these are my guys. You know what I mean? Y'all fell for him. All heel team and babyface, these are my guys. Midnight." So yeah, of course, it makes perfect sense. Make Batista this guy. Hunter knows he can always get his wins back. That's it ain't like Dave, obviously. So makes perfect sense. That's a lot of things that people don't think about is the actual manipulation that you have to follow through with to get where you want to be. And you're not going to be the most popular guy in the world all the time doing it, but so what? You know, that's what you have to ask yourself. Does it mean that much to you or not? So, yeah, I'm sure Dave had maybe one or two political science classes about how to, run the government of a country and put in sewage and, waste disposal, things like that. But as far as politicking in the world of professional wrestling / sports entertainment, I'm sorry, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, and I'm actually texting Dave right now. And so anyway, my bad. All right.
With that, though, it's interesting, like the way it happens with Batista and Cena, how they switch brands. They want to go PG, obviously, eventually. And it feels like they kind of go away from Batista. He's still a top guy, but they almost go away from him and really push Cena because Cena's the merch guy. But if you actually go to the shows, and I went to a bunch of shows in that era, Cena, obviously, I mean, you can even tell on TV, obviously, half cheer, half boost. Batista was way more over, quote unquote, with the crowd, like with the live crowds, and would get the normal babyface reaction because he was like a badass. You're like, oh, I like this guy's a badass. Oh, this guy's Cena. If you're of a certain age, you're like, this guy's so corny, so cheesy. So do you think if they kind of went more adult, that Batista may have overshot Cena, or because it was the PG era, you wanted to go Cena in that direction?
That makes more sense to me, actually. But at the same time, I think you're allowing the audience to choose. And was it not who was drawing more ratings, or who was it Cena?
So they seem to think it was Cena. It seemed pretty even to me. Just merch sales. Cena blew him out of the water.
Well, that could have been the decision making, because I think if it would have been up to the reaction and organic reactions and merch sales, that's who they're going to pick. I don't think they're going to say, well, we're doing PG stuff. So I think it would have been pushing to the limits and trying to get on what you can get on if it was Batista that was going through the roof. But if you had John Cena with the hustle, loyalty, respect, and you can't see me, and all the kids are into it, that would be the decision maker. I would certainly think.
So it seemed like Batista went through a bit of injury problems. Just he had a bunch of them. He'd be world champion, then he'd have to give up the title due to injury. I remember he tore his bicep really bad at one point. It just seemed like it wasn't destined to be healthy all year round. I know Cena had that one horrific injury where he was out for a while, but Cena definitely seemed like he was the more healthy of the two, obviously the younger of the two too, which I'm sure played a role into when you get into wrestling when you're a little bit later. I'm sure the injuries tend to pop up and creep up, especially, he was almost 35 when he got in. So I could see that popping up more. He eventually leaves wrestling for a while and then ends up making a return. And then it was a huge, like it was 5 million or 6 million people were watching Raw for his return back in 2013 era. He ends up basically 2013, 2014. He wins that Rumble. So he's a 2-time Rumble winner, but the crowd doesn't really care for him at that point. So it's interesting that like when he made his return, I thought they thought like, okay, we're going to get the old crowd reaction, the old Batista back. But the fans seem to be a little different. They seem to be a little changed. They were much more for Daniel Bryan and CM Punk at that point than for a Dave Batista who was making his triumphant return.
But could that be too that maybe the fans at that time were getting a little, I don't know, I'm not saying all, because I don't think that's the case, but I also think that sometimes it does go on the mainstream, some of the mainstream news sites or Facebook or whatever, some people are cruising, and you'll see an article and they'll talk about how Batista has been overrated or friends with Hunter, and that's due to his success is due to his friendship and saying things like that. I've read that. So at the same time, you got to understand, Batista actually has to go out and wrestle the matches. Hunter can't do that for him. He has to go out there and perform. So you got to give it to him. The guy does know how to work. He does know how to tell a story. But I think fans are very fickle, and sometimes it's fun to boo the recurring hero or coming back hero if he's not a Stone Cold or a Rock or something like that. And you'll even have people boo those guys. So I think that just goes with the turf and the territory, and he was probably soured on it by that time. He might have done some interviews or promos also talking about his coming back or not wanting to come back. Or I don't know if it was that long ago or not that he did that. I know he's done it recently where he's just didn't want to come back to wrestling, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can understand, especially if you're happy doing what you're doing, because that's really what it's about.
I feel like his return back in 2014 was really good because, in a way, it's like, okay, they shifted. Remember, he's wearing the blue. They were joking around calling him Blue Tista. Like, he kind of shifted. Okay, he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to be the champ. Doesn't need to win. But then he started playing a really good heel, and he got really over as a heel. Then they did Evolution 2.0. He's putting the Shield over. He's putting Daniel Bryan over. Like, he did his part when he came back. Like, he was all business. He did business. And then he ends up coming back again several years later with that mini feud with Triple H, which I thought had good build up to it. Remember, he said, "Give me what I want, give me what I want." Triple H beats him, ends his career, and so he's gone because he wanted to continue his Hollywood acting career, which, oh, by the way, was huge because of Guardians of the Galaxy, him playing Drax. He was great in James Bond. He was great in Blade Runner. I mean, he became a really, really good actor. So it's one of those things where, okay, he didn't really need to come back to wrestling, but he did twice. So it's like people. I don't think people can rip him because the guy didn't need it. You know?
Yeah, I don't either. But he and you got to admit he is still a great name to have on a WrestleMania and SummerSlam, any place. Absolutely. I mean, it's Batista. He may not look exactly like he looked when in his younger days, but I don't think he has the same kind of issues that Superstar Billy Graham. You know, so I mean, I'm sure he's taking time off and staying in shape. He's one of those guys that always stayed ready. Didn't have to get ready. He stayed ready. So, yeah.
So in his career, he's OVW champion. He's 6-time WWE World Champion, 2-time Royal Rumble winner, 3-time Tag Team Champion, and like I mentioned, a huge movie star. So what do you think his legacy is like looking back at his career? Because it seems like it's over. Like you said, he did say he does not want to return. Who knows if that's a work, though? I feel like some of the guys just say that, and all of a sudden he's popping up. So what do you think his legacy is? Because it's got to be pretty substantial to me.
Yeah, I think what you just said would be his legacy. He started out and ended up a success in wrestling, and started out and ended up a success in Hollywood so far. So, and ended up in Hollywood. But I think you can't help but talk about major stars, not just in WWE, but in the wrestling business. And of course, WWE is a wrestling business, I guess. Well, not really, but in a sense, they do have their own legacy, and to succeed in that legendary company, because it has done things that, my goodness, they not only just seem regular these days, but back in those days, it was like, how in the world did this come together? How did you make all this happen? From the first WrestleMania all the way to WrestleMania, what are we at, 38 now? Mm-hmm. So Batista was a major part of some of those WrestleManias. He was a major part of that company. And so that alone cements his legacy. Just winning the WWF or WWE championship one time would cement your legacy there. And how many times was he champion?
6.
6-time world champion. So it's a legitimate legacy, and he's certainly a Hall of Famer. Not sure how he feels about it today, but he ought to look at WWE as an entertainment enterprise that gave him a shot, and I'm sure he does. I think he's most everybody that I've ever heard of, even when they've been mad at Vince, always come back and tell him thank you, and they appreciate everything he's done. So I'm sure he will be back, and I'm sure he'll be inducted one day into the Hall of Fame when it's a live crowd, live house, and a big house, and everybody will go home happy and smiling and talking about the great times they had. And the next day they'll go back to being miserable and talking about each other behind their back. Who knows? I mean, that could be a possibility too.
Sounds like the wrestling business, but let's talk about your awesome book, A Pro Wrestling Curriculum, Advice, Suggestions, and Stories to Help the Aspiring Pro Get to the Next Level. Dr. Tom, where can they get this great book?
You can get that at our website. It's jpwrestlingacademy.com. On the front page, you can order that very book John hands in his cold, hot, wet, steaming hands. And check it out. It's front page, jpwrestlingacademy.com. You can also check out, real quick, you can also check out our next training sessions in 2022. Thank you very much.
I was going to say about the book, never before has a complete 1-year pro wrestling curriculum been put together and made available to the public. Just want to throw that out there as well.
Very true.
That's true. So also, you can go to Pro Wrestling Tees. Go to ProWrestlingTees.com, get a JPWA shirt or get a Dr. Tom shirt. I love the Dr. Tom Wanted Dead or Alive shirt. Dr. Tom mentioned you can check out his website or you can check out my website, tmptempire.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out Dr. Tom at Dr. Tom Prichard. Anything else going on? WrestleCade, anything else?
We're waiting for WrestleCade the day after Thanksgiving. Have a seminar going on at AML in Winston-Salem. So check out WrestleCade website. I'm not sure what the website is, but you can. I think if you Google WrestleCade,
it's WrestleCade.com. Yeah,
WrestleCade.com. Give you all the information. So looking forward to that.
Nice. Good stuff as always, Dr. Tom. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little Taking to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. See you next week, folks.